Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. Neil Pollock from KOREC here again, and here we are for the second in our series of 3 webinars around the Trimble X7 laser scanner. For those of you that joined us on our first of the series, welcome back. And for anybody new, you're most welcome. Today we're joined by our friend and colleague, Tor Erik Dupos from Trimble. He'll be guiding us through the use of the X7 for geospatial professionals. There will be a chance to take questions at the end of the webinar. I will now hand you over.
Let's it's one of those things that you're working from home these days, your internet connection suddenly seems to be going. So first of all, again, very sorry for this quick or this brief trouble there. I just gotta make sure I have it like this. And again, as I was started to say, if there's anything else that we in Trimble can do, these days we're all sitting home and stuff like that, if any of you have any Trimble products or anything like you want to know about, reach out to us, and we're happy to try to set up various types of learning things or information things, or even if any of you just want to have a chat with us. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Trimble perspective, but we cannot talk about Trimble perspective without there we go. We cannot talk about Trimble perspective without actually also talking about the X7. Now, I understand there was some presentation about that last week, but Trimble perspective was made together with the X7, and it was a central part of the system while we developed the laser scanner. Just a brief introduction to who's actually talking here. So, as Neil said, my name is Tor Erik Dupos, or Ted, as most people call me. Some of you might know me, and some of you might not. 51 years old. I'm actually from Norway, but I live here in the UK, and I've been here since 1999. So I've been here a long time. So I live here in Hook, which is just an hour west of central London. Long time since I left university. I have a background in marine and land, and then probably more specifically geodetic surveying. Can we not hear anything? This is not going very well, is it all? For whatever reason, I seem to have a serious issue with my internet connection. That's not good. Currently, I work as an application engineer within Trimble, and more crucially, for the best part of the last 2 years, I've also been part of the X7 development team for how it being done. As I said, we went ahead and created the Trimble X7, and with it some of the system that was to be used. Part of what we want to do with this was to make a laser scanner that was simple to use, try to overcome some of the difficulties in. Sorry, I'm really having problems with this. This is not going very well on the side here. Chat. Erased. Anyway, so to make a laser scanner that was supposed to be relatively easy to use. However, with that, also a scanner that has some really smart technology in it, and some technology that let us do some pretty unique things in terms of what's in the laser scanner. And that also said, a scanner that is used for the professional side of things, so something that is for our industry to be used. Just a very quick brief overview. So this is the technical specification. So when we set out to create the X7, it was really about making a scanner that had a good blend of what we would call price and performance. We kind of put this into a kind of a mid-range area of it. So the scanning range is about up to 80 meters. We have other scanners that's doing more. We have other scanners that are more accurate, and so on and so on. But we do believe that we have created a scanner that has a good blend of that performance-wise in terms of what it is. I'll talk a little bit more about the specifics on how to utilize some of the stuff we see on the specification sheet here, such as the sampling rates, the IPs, the camera systems, and so on as we move forward. We are currently offering the X7 as a kind of a complete system today, and in that complete system, this is basically what you get. So you have the X7 as a 3D, the laser scanner itself. You can get it with the Trimble Perspective field software and a T10, but you can also choose not to have that T10, which is if you have your own tablet and that tablet is to the minimum specification for running the software, that is also something you can do. And with it, the custom Gitso tripod. There's also a Gitso QR adapter. So this is basically by standard, the scanner has a 5/8 thread underneath it. But you can also get it with a adapter, which you can have a quick release that you basically put on it. With the scanner, we supply 3 standard batteries, and these are the same batteries we're using in our S-series total station. And also with the T10, we supply 3 batteries, and the T10 is such that you can actually hot swap the batteries, so you don't have to kind of turn it on and off in terms of the work you're doing. Other than that, of course, more batteries if you want to do that, but we try to put together a package that makes you have the capability to use the scanner all the time or for a whole day's work. Software, of course, we have two pieces of Office software that can actually take scan data. They slightly different focus. So one is Trimble RealWorks, which is our dedicated laser scanning software. And the other one is Trimble Business Center, which is a more all-round survey package for taking in total station DNSS data, but also have that capability to read point cloud data from the system. So to go through some of the key features on the X7 is important, because that's also some of the key things that our Perspective software is using. And one of the things, we call it a Trimble X drive. So whenever we as manufacturing create these things, they come out in these technology words, and the word one for this one is Trimble X drive. And this is basically a generic description of the whole electronic systems that is put together here that let us do some of these specific things we do in there, such as the calibration, the automatic registration, and so on and so on. That's really the core technology that sits behind the capability to do some of these things. And of course, some of these very unique features is by first the auto calibration. But most of you know any laser scanner or any total station, whatever it leads a factory, it goes through a calibration process, whereas we go through a process where we're finding the deviation values on the instrument, and this then goes into a calibration matrix. And whenever the scanner or total station is turned on, these values are being applied in order to meet the specification of the system. However, then one of the reasons you have to send it back once a year is over time these values might drift. So you have to take them back and go through this again and again to meet that specification. So with the X7, we actually built such a kind of collimation test bench into the bottom of the unit, or part of that X drive, which basically gives us the capability to do that calibration before each scan. And as such, as long as the scanner is mechanically sound, and one of the things that will fail such a calibration is, of course, if that isn't the case, you will basically not have to send the scanner back to us for that calibration routine, as it does it before each individual scan. The times it takes to do it varies a little bit on how much you scan, whether it's temperature stable, light is stable, these type of things. It monitors that. And whether we have to do it on each individual scan going forward, it's something we currently are looking at in order to maybe get the time even further down. Then again, another one of these quite unique features here is, of course, the level compensation. So as long as the scanner is within ±5 degrees, whether that is upside down or the correct way up, we will compensate it to better than 3 arc seconds. Now we can actually compensate it all the way up to 45 degrees, but we don't kind of agree, we don't say that will be within 3 arc seconds. But as part of the adjustment process that we do with the data after the scan is done, we can correct for anything that's above that those ±5 degrees, so that we can pull this into the right level. Now, this is a function that you actually can turn on and off. If you don't want to use any of these things, any of the automatic registration and all that, you can turn it on, and the scanner will simply just work as any other normal mass scanning collection device. In terms of sampling on this unit, we're sampling at 2 rates. So we have a standard 500 kilohertz, or 500,000 points a second. And we also have what we call a high sensitivity mode at 166 kilohertz. Basically, the scanner slows down a little bit, takes a little bit longer time to wait for that echo, and a slightly different algorithms to tune for what it's reflecting on. So anybody that's into scanning probably know that the reflectiveness of the various things that you're hitting will change depending on both the distance and the material that you are actually scanning. As I say, minimum range about 0.5 meter, maximum range about 80 meter, and then we have range accuracy about 2 millimeter. Range noise is just slightly under 3 millimeter, but we're holding that range noise really quite well through that whole level. So it isn't flat. I think the TX8 is really, really good on this bit. It isn't as flat as that. It is slightly linear, but it isn't exponential in terms of how it goes either. So it's kind of an effort to try to give the user more capability to try to capture some of these surfaces that might be difficult to do. The scanner has 3 coaxial integrated cameras. They are coaxial. They're not concentric, so they're not sitting right in the middle, but by having them coaxial and the way we do it, we are minimizing the, the parallax. And you have 2 ways or 2 modes that you can capture image. Basically a fast 15 image, that adds on 1 minute to the scanning time. And then we also have we call it a quality 30 image. It's not that the picture in itself is any better, but the overlap of how it's taken is basically double up, and that adds on another 2 minutes to that, which gives us a reasonably good panorama view. I don't think any of the cameras that is on these type of scanners would ever be probably as good as what you get out of an SLR camera. So if you want that type of quality, you could always use an external one. And then a few settings for operating the scanner on both an inside environment and outside environment with various light settings. Very important for us as part of developing the scanner was we wanted a scanner that was something that could be used in specifically on the outdoor, also in a wide range of temperature. So probably not too much of an issue here in the UK, but we have places where specifically the lower temperature is very critical. So basic range is -20 to +50, which we think is a good range of that. The other, of course, is also it is an instrument we want to be able to have outside. Whether you scan in rain and snow and these type of things is probably different things, but you never know if you're outside and it starts raining, it shouldn't take any damage of that. So it's a good IP55, which should protect it quite well from that downpour and also the dusty environment in terms of what it is. All in all, this with the X-Drive technology is also offering the scanner as a standard 2-year warranty for it. That was a very kind of brief recap of last week's presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit more about something that went together with the scanner, and this is what we call Trimble Perspective, or the scanning field software. So when we set out to do this, we wanted to create a kind of a field software for operating the scanner, and as a side project to the X7 was basically the bit that was going to handle and process the scan data that we're capturing with the scanner, and the bit that does that is what we call the Trimble Perspective software. So Trimble Perspective is what I would call the general purpose laser scanning software for field data. So if you're you want a scanner that you're going to use a bit for everything here and there, you're doing a bit of elevation work, you're a bit of outdoor work, kind of as I say, multi-purpose scanner, then the Perspective software is probably the right one for you. It is also the processing engine for a couple of other initiatives within Trimble. So we have a few of our other divisions that also having products that can really do well with utilizing scan data. 2 of them are our friends in the forensic division, so Trimble Real. They're taking a pipe of this data into their software, which is a specialized software for accident investigation. So a vertical scanning is probably not the key point here, but they have workflows and work capabilities in there, and basically to have that capability to take in scan data as part of it is a very valuable part for them. Another one is another vertical, and our friends in our building division, they have something called Trimble FieldLink. And again, this is a specialized field software for building construction layout. And here too, scanning is probably not the prime purpose. It's doing a lot of things, but also for them, it was important to have the capability to take scans directly in. So Trimble Perspective is the underlying thing that feeds this software too. I believe there's a webinar for this next week. So for those of you who are into the more kind of building construction layout side of things, this is probably a good one to watch. As we sat down and created a perspective, one thing that we wanted to do was to have a new, fresh software, but that was really focused on ease of use, intuitive to do it, and a platform for us for further expansion in terms of both feature and function of what we do. So we spent quite a lot of time with end users, hanging around with them, having specific software people who only focuses on kind of user interface, UI interface and stuff like that, to watch what people do in the field. And I think most of the feedback we've gotten so far, for those who had a go, we've succeeded quite well with that. It's a relatively easy software to use. This isn't meant to be complex, but at the same time, it's a bit of a blend between a field software, and it's starting to kind of take some of the office functionality with you out into the field. So hopefully by the end of this, I will try to give you a little bit of a demonstration here, if my internet connection and everything holds up, to give you a little bit better understanding of it rather than just the slides for it. One of the key things with it, of course, is automatic registration. So the scanner has a built-in IMU, and with a lot of the information from that, together with a clever algorithm, we are basically able to automatically put these scans together. As you scan and you move, and you scan and you move, we can take these scans together. So the way this is happening is basically that after each scan, the scanner is downloading the data into the Trimble Perspective software, and then as they come in, we do register them in what we call a pairwise registration. This does not always work. I think that would be lying to go and say that automatic registration is something that will, in any situation, will work. But we have tried to build in some quite intuitive, good tool in order to how you can fix up some of this, and I will try to show that that little bit later. You don't, of course, have to work with this system. You can also use the scanner in a complete normal kind of target system way. That also the capability to do that. As it is a field software, we're also starting to add in some feature and function of how we can do it. And we've gotten, since we released this scanner, gotten quite a lot of feedback from a lot of people how we can maybe improve on or add features onto the more data collection side of things to that. So that's something we are looking at. One thing, or a couple of things you have, is labels and annotations. And this is labels is probably best described as grouping. So as you go along, you then have that capability to add labels into that particular scan, so you can group them. So whether you're in floor 1, floor 2, or room 1, room 2, and so on. So as the operator that does it is probably the best fitted also to put in the right labels to where it needs to be. Annotations, on the other hand, is more like I wouldn't call it feature coding, but it's a bit like picking points in the scan and annotate something to it. So whether that is a photo or a code, a description, and these type of things, you can add it in, and this is then being added into the scan. And then also, if you take these data into one of our field office software, the annotation comes in as observations. So similar as you do a GPS observation or a total station observation that has a vector to it, these also comes in that way. And these you can also feature code. You can process them in the same way as you would process a normal point code. So whether you want to use it as a normal point code, of course, that's another thing, but you have the capability to do that. Measurement types. So you have functionality, and again, this is not meant to kind of be an engineering type measurement, but you have that capability to go in and do various types of measurements. So whether they're horizontally and vertical constrained, or an area, or a free measure, you can quite easily and quickly go in and give that a quick check and do so. And again, these will also be transferred over to the Office software. Excuse me. As I said, the camera, the scanner has 3 cameras that you can take picture with, and you can also view these in the field if you want to do that. So we have what we call a kind of just a fast viewing. This is a quick way to just view it. In this case, the distance to its image is basically fixed. It's a kind of a rough putting them together, so the pictures aren't looking necessarily that good, but they're really just there as a quick overview for seeing it. However, when we actually export the data, we take it through a different creation. So in that case, we're actually using the real distance to the point cloud in order to correct for the parallax, and so in order to get it to look a lot better in there. Now, in the scanner software, in the field perspective software itself, you have the capability to either turn on or turn off the processing of the images, not just to take them, but also the processing. So you can have the processing on as you go along and scan. We would normally recommend people to kind of do that as part of the export at the end, simply because it eats processing power, and it also eats battery power while it goes on and do that. So it's probably better just to have the processing bit off, and then it's a final part of the export if you're using images to also go through and do that one. You can also choose to take that video into the Office software and do it there, and thereby it will go quicker, simply because normally your Office computer and the Office software is a bit more powerful to do that than the T10 itself. In terms of workflow, right now we kind of have 3 workflow ways that you can work with. It's what we call tablet connected to perspective and push button to connected. These 2 normally kind of holds hand in hand, and the last one is push button disconnected. And what this is, I'll try to explain a bit more. So tablet connected to perspective is basically you control everything from within the perspective software. So you move your scanner, you basically press the scan button inside the software, and it scans. You move to the next place and you redo that process. Push button is slightly different, but let's say you're operating in a big area or small area, whatever it is, and you're not carrying the tablet. You simply just lay the tablet down because the Wi-Fi connection is pretty good. And you're just on a scan, your tablet lies on a bench or whatever, and you move that scanner maybe 15 meters away from where the tablet is. So rather than have to walk all the way back and press the button, you can just give it a push on the side of the scanner, and it will initiate the scanning inside the perspective software too, so that it can just go on. The last one is basically where you don't use the perspective software at all. You simply just use it as a standard scanner. In this way, you can log on, you can set your setting, and then you can disconnect perspective. And then you can go out and simply, you just scan and you just keep pressing that push button as you go along. And when you're done, you have a few options that you can do. You can either take the raw data out of the SD card that sits inside the scanner, put it into your Office software and process the data, register it, and all that as a more traditional way. Or you can actually also turn on the perspective software, and it will connect to the scanner, and it will start to synchronize all the scans you down into the software. And as it's doing that, it will also try to do the auto registration as part of it. depending on the path you walked and how you've done the job, probably some of them won't auto-register, but you can basically do quite a lot of them and then take that into your Office software afterwards. We store the data 2 places. We store the raw data on the SD card in the scanner, and then at the same time, we also transfer the raw data over to the tablet. So if something should happen, you will normally have the data sitting in one place, so you shouldn't lose it. Also, of course, as I say, after that registration, you can also final adjust the data. So when we're doing the registration today, we're doing what we call a pairwise registration. So basically you registered to last, or you registered to a given station that is of your choice. But when you're done with the whole scan, specifically if you don't necessarily want to take it into an processing software like TBC and Trimble RealWorks, you do have the capability to actually finalize and do that last adjustment. So you have the chance to do a full least square adjustment on the data, and with that you will also get a detailed summary of registration reports on how all the links to the various station is hanging together. So you can do that. And an important part for why we have done that is, over the years, we've gotten a lot of questions from users who really just wanted to do a scan and directly from the tablet have the capability to output a finished kind of colorized and adjusted system. So that's why you also have that capability to do that final one. You probably have, you probably have further controls or more controls of the adjustment process if you take it into an Office software, but you also have the capability to do some of that directly on the tablet. And then just as important for that was to have some formats that we can get out. And you have a number of choices that you can choose today. So E57 or LIS, RCP, POD, PTX are some of the scans. Now, if you're using a lot of labels and annotations, these aren't going with these formats, because I don't believe there's anything specification that lets us do that. But if you're using any of Trimble's native Office software, such as RealWorks and TBC, you will have the capability to take these annotations and these type of things with you further in. And that brings me onto the last bit, just before I'm going to see if I can do some demonstration here. Of course, as I say, we have 2 Office software packages that can take our scan data. And we purpose-made the integration to both of them, both TBC and Trimble RealWorks, in terms of pretty much a drag and drop in. And as I started with, TBC is more a general purpose survey software that I also have the capability to add in scan data, and you can mix that with more traditional, maybe GNSS level and these type of things. And we have a scanning module within there that lets you do a number of things. However, if it's dedicated laser scanning, Trimble RealWorks, which is our dedicated laser scanning software, Office software, that is more focused on entirely point cloud work, probably have a richer set of both registration and adjustment functions, and a lot of tools that really goes around the manipulation and managing of point cloud data. Right. I'm going to see if I can give you a very quick demonstration on Trimble perspective, and I do apologize. Again, I'm sitting working from home in a rather small office, so the excitement of what you see I scan is probably not that big, but at least you get an understanding of how it works and what it looks like. So I'm just going to find my perspective software. So I hope everybody can see this one. So this is basically the interface to the Trimble perspective software. And it starts basically by creating a new project. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to click add, and we'll see if this will work. And I can just call that home 2. With the T10 tablet, you have that capability to take a photo and just put it in as a front page, but that's not necessarily important. We're creating a project, and we should now be connected to the scanner. So this is basically the interface. On the top here, you have the hamburger menu and the information of the project. Then you have the scanner information that you're connected, the Wi-Fi range, and it says something about the power level there. You can click on any of this and you get up the specification. So whether you're connected to a 5 gigahertz network or 2.4 gigahertz network, the battery capacity and also the storage, and it says so many scans you have the capability to do based on the current SD cards that are in there. On the left side in general is everything that goes on showing and kind of displaying your point cloud as they go along. And then on the right side, we have a little bit more tools. So here you can see, whether you have a good bad registration, the annotation, the measurements, and so on and so on. And basically at the top here, you have a limiter, so you can basically limit the elevation of the scan if you want to see it from a side view, and so on and so on. This can also be locked. And then at the bottom is really where you control the scan element of what you're doing itself. Now, before we go in and scan, I just want to go in here. You have some submenus. There's some generic settings functions here, and these are just things like if you want to use a mouse, your language, the scan display filter. This says something about if you have 200, 300, 400 scans in your job and you're running into an issue, you have a filter that basically will display only the 5 closest stations to where you currently are, or whatever number you set there. So it kind of takes away a lot of scans, so it's easier to see and troubleshoot some of the data that you potentially have. Units, that is units for what you want to do. Images, as I said, this is where you can turn the panoramic creation to on and off. We would normally recommend you simply to have that off per default, and then as part of your export at the end, you can do it there. But if that's turned on, basically every time you take photos, every time you do, the software will try to also process the panorama and the automatic colorization of the point clouds as it go along. And last one is basically where we were, the scan side of it. Now, back to the side, this is really where you control it. So down here is where you're adding your labels. So whether, as I say, room 1, room 2, you just add them in. And here is where you control which station you want to register to. So by default, it's registered to last. So if I go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, it will just register to last. But if you, for example, I used the example, you go down a corridor, you go out of room and down a corridor, you might want to go back again and keep going the other way of the corridor. And for doing that, you can basically control which station you want to connect itself to. So that's where you're doing that. And then underneath here is where you control the scan parameters of what you want to do. It's all based on time, but then if you want to see what's underneath the various time, and the times here is really, they really rounded up. So when it's 2 minutes, it's actually 1 minute 34 seconds, and that's included the 10, 15 to 20, 25 seconds calibration times that it does in the beginning. So the scan time itself is probably roughly just over a minute. So you can see here what the resolution settings are, and we have a 2 minute, we have a 4 minute, and basically on the 4 minute and 7 minute, you also have the capability to choose the standard or the high sensitivity for what you want to do. And whether you want images, you turn them on, and then you have some settings to how you want to do the balancing of what you do. For this little demonstration, I will simply just take it to a 2 minutes side of things, and as we're ready to go, we'll see if my scanner is connected, and if we go. So now I'm clicking start scan, and I am very aware that none of you can actually see it, but behind me in the room I have a scanner. It's now doing its little dance where it goes through the calibration routine. The first one is always the longest one. But as I said, this is part of that 1 minute 34-second period of the complete scan side of it. So as soon as the initialization bit is over, the scanner will start scanning. Now I know doing a webinar and then waiting for a scanner that you can't see is probably not the best, but bear with me here. So now we're actually into the scanning side of it, and as this goes through, and as soon as this is finished, there's a couple of things that will happen. As soon as this is done, the scanner will basically tell me that it's ready to be moved, and at that minute I can just move the scanner and instantly press scan for the next point. At the same time, this is happening in parallel, so it doesn't slow you down in any way. At the same time, it will start downloading the data from the scanner and into the software. So now we're done, and I will basically move it. I'm afraid I can't move it very long, but a little bit. That's it. I've moved it, and now I simply press start scanning, and the scanner starts. So I've already managed to download the first scan, and what the software will then do is kind of do an auto orientation on it just as the data comes in, as it should. This is just a preview. We're not displaying all the points in the side of it, but this is where it now is. So here's the viewing of it, and as I said, here's the overview. I can go in and I can look at it in 3D. I can display the stations in various way or not. I can see it from side view if that's what I want to do. So here you can see the mess I'm sitting in around. And if I want to back in 2D again, we just click it like that. If you go into this, you will get the side view of it. So here you can see. So as I say, this is not the most exciting place to to see, as this is the grayscale of it. And back here again. So we're just about to finish the second scan, and then the same process will go. As soon as it beeps, I will move the scanner, and it will download the data, and then it will start the process of the automatic registration. There we go. So I won't bore you with too many of these. I did one more, but now it's it's downloaded the second one, and it's now doing the automatic registration. I will try to match that up with the other scan. We can go in here and we can set that maybe to scan color. So there you can see we put it together. I'm just going to let the last one finish, and then we're going to have a quick look at some of the editing function. So first off, if I go in here, it gives me some information on it, and this is also where I can control my registration sets and so on and so, in terms of if I want to see this. If I go in this place, it will tell me a little bit about the events that gone, and it will also give me a snapshot of the error contribution that's in that. As I say, this is a peer-to-peer registration, and the final refinement is something you do later on. So we're just about to finish off the last one. At the same time, as I say, annotations is basically something like this. So I can go in here and I can say create a new, call it door. I can put a description. I can put photos in there, and I can click on it, and I say create annotation. That is now a part of my scan. So we can see the annotation sits here, and these are also coming in, as I say, into the field software. There we go. We're finishing the third one. I'm gonna halt it there, and we're gonna get that one to go. To load itself in. And this will then basically be the process that you go on in terms of registering, putting the data together. There we are. That's the third one done. Now, as I said here, if I wanted that registered to 1 instead of 3, I could have basically put and chosen it there. So instead of using last, which is the default, I could have said 2 to 1. I also said as part of my presentation, automatic registration isn't something that will always work. There will be a situation where this might be struggling. So we've tried to put in some functionality that lets you deal with some of this. So for example, if I just hold on it, I can go to the registration, and this basically takes you into an edit mode of where we are. So in this case, if I break that link now, we can see the scan is gone out. So the most important thing to fix the scan in perspective is that you get the orientation correctly. So for example, if I, for whatever reason, got to scan in like this, and then I try to do register, it will most likely fail. This is a very small room I'm sitting in here, so it might actually be that but in most of the cases, it should fail for doing that. It kind of didn't really do it properly. So if it comes in any way, shape, or form, the best thing is really to just get your scan oriented in the right place. You don't have to go and try to overlap it. You can actually do it, but in many cases you can all do that, and then you say register, and it will then create or register it and create that link in order to get that. Correctly, and there it registered, and you can go close, and it's basically built in. We'll do one last thing I just want to say. Sometimes to get, if you have specific, if you're operating areas we have irregular shapes, it's not always that easy to see and how to do it. So we built in something we call the split view that basically gives you the capability to see the station that you want to register to, and you can pick 2 common points of what you want to do. So in this case, for example, I can click there, and maybe there and there. Doesn't have to be spot on, and then you can register, and the scanners should then do that same in order to get it to the right orientation for you and register it correctly. There we go. And that's a very brief, sorry, I also need to say, so at the end here is basically you can refine the project and you can finalize the export. So the refinement is basically now doing a least square adjustment on all the data for the refinement side of it. And it will then generate you a report. You can edit the layout of this, but it gives you a much more detailed report of the stations that you've done and the overlap and these type of things. Last but not least, I realized I'm running out of time. finalize and export. So as I said here, if you're taking a lot of photos, you can choose to colorize it, and you can also choose to create high quality panoramas as part of it. And then you simply go here, you pick the format that you want to do, TZF, E57, PTX, and so on, and then you export it out to that. That was a very very brief introduction to Trimble Perspective. As I say, I'm only have about 5 minutes again. I also just wanted to say very quickly that, of course, the X7 isn't the only scanner we do. We also have a couple of other scanners, such as the TX6 and TX8. They are bigger scanners, but they have very different scan performance factors in them. And then, of course, also the SX10, which, strictly speaking, isn't a scanner. It's a total station that has scan capabilities. But again, it has some unique feature and functionality for that. With that, I think I conclude on this presentation. I did say I'm more than happy to try to take some questions if there is anybody that have them. If also anybody have any other questions, feel free to of course email me or speak to Neil or anything like that in terms of that. Okay.
So, Ted, we do have just a couple of questions. If you can help us out. So, first one here is, how many scans can we store in one instance on the tablet?
So we haven't really had any test on some of them. Mostly we have done is about 870 scans. I believe that's most that we've that I've taken it through.
Okay. Also, a question around the servicing, Ted. So, the statement is, so it never needs servicing.
Yeah. Well, a service and calibration is two different things. A service can be a mechanical side of things. Calibration is the process of, which is normally something you have to send it back to a factory because of the tools needed to run it through that, to take the measurements and apply these datas, these deviation reports, all that kind of stuff into the laser scanners. That's the calibration process of it. A scanner might it's still a mechanical and electrical unit. It might still may need a repair or something like that, but that's part of what the calibration routine will dictate. If it can't pass a calibration routine, there might be something mechanically wrong with it.
Okay. And just a couple of questions from the same person here, Ted. So we've mentioned the data can be taken directly from the tablet. How much memory does the tablet have on board on the T10?
Oh, I have to look that up. I can't remember from the top of my head how much memory there is in the tablet, but I can. We are getting these questions written down, aren't we? 256 gigabytes, Kevin says. So that's probably right.
Excellent. And finally, we have, is the scanner self-leveling, which I think you covered. If you just want to run through that again, Ted.
The scanner is self-leveling, yes. As I said, currently, as long as it is within plus minus 5 degrees, we will level it to better than 3 arc seconds. The scanner can be tilted all the way up to 45 degrees, and we will still level it. The only thing we say that it won't be within plus minus within 3 arc seconds. So we even at 45 degrees, we actually can level it. But as I say, as part of the adjustment process, so if you have multiple scans that you just set up normally and they straight, and plus minus 5 degrees, quite a bit, and you suddenly have one that you need to tilt a bit, we can really quite well adjust that one to it. So that's how that works. We are actually looking at whether we can do it or to do within the specification even more, but that's something we currently are looking at.
Okay. All right, we do have a lot of other questions. Unfortunately, we're close to the end of our slot here, so we will take a note of those questions. Any that we haven't managed to answer today, we will answer via email, or we will give people a call.
Yeah, I see them. So very, very quickly, because here it says, is there a need to use targets now with the IMU or not? No, you don't necessarily have to use targets, but this is more, whether you want them and stuff like that. So it's a bit how people work and how them to do this. So
attending, and we will, as I say, be in touch with any of you that have answered questions. Okay, and again, thank you for your time, everybody, and we will leave it there. We have the third in the series. If you have signed up for either the first or second, you'll receive an email inviting you to that third webinar, where we'll be looking more at the Trimble field link solution for the X7. Thank you again, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you all soon.